Hey guys, so this is class 3, and the topic is healthy eating on a budget. So we're going to really get down to the nitty gritty and just talk about what exactly should be on the plate. So we've talked about all the principles behind it, all the concepts, all of the details, and now we're going to talk about basically, yeah, what should you buy in the store? What should you cook? What are some actual meal options that are healthy and simple and fairly affordable? Okay, so first we're going to start with healthy eating patterns. So, um, some people are different than others, right? So, some people skip breakfast, some people kind of nibble all throughout the day. Some people really just stick to their 3 meals and that's it. You know, everyone's kind of different, but some patterns of eating are healthier than others. Of course, this is all per the person, so every body is different, and what may be healthy for one person doesn't really work for another. But in general, for the majority of people, this is what we should aim for. So 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's a big thing because if you find yourself skipping a meal, the tendency is to overeat in the next meal because you're really, really hungry. So that can lead to weight gain, and it's just not healthy, really. Also, you could be missing out on nutrients that you would have gotten in the other meal, such as like vitamins and minerals that your body really needs. Also, you could end up eating too much of the wrong foods at your next meal. Say you skip breakfast and then you're starving at lunch. So instead of eating just a regular size lunch, you not only get a bigger one, but you choose foods you probably wouldn't have chosen if you had been eating a healthy breakfast. So maybe you get a soda instead of water. Maybe you get something with a lot of carbs, or maybe you get a donut with your lunch, or whatever dessert with your lunch. Maybe you wouldn't have done that if you had been more satisfied with breakfast and you're just like a normal amount of hungry. So 3 square meals a day. That makes sure you get all the nutrients you need, the calories, the protein, and carbs, as long as they are the right portions that we've already talked about. And we're going to refresh on portions in a little bit and get even more specific with portion sizes. So snacks. Should really only be 1 or 2 snacks a day, and that includes dessert. So space them out however you want, put them wherever you want, in between breakfast and lunch, or lunch and dinner, or late at night. It's fine if you want to eat late at night as a dessert or a snack. What's most important is the portion and the type of food. So don't have a huge bowl of ice cream late at night and say, well, I didn't have any snacks all day long. You're not really moving after that bowl of ice cream, I assume, so it's really just going to stick on you. So that's a little bit different. So you really have to watch the portion. But if you are going to eat late at night, that's fine. Just eat a little bit less than you normally would have, because you're really not going to be moving. Or if you want a little bit more, just make sure you get up and move around. Take a late night walk, as long as it's safe, and or get up and wash all the dishes, vacuum, do something, move around if you think you ate too much late at night. Water. Water is really important. You should be drinking water throughout the day when you're thirsty. There's no like magic number of how many glasses or bottles of water you should have. Just drink when you're thirsty. But keep in mind that beverages really do matter. They really do count and add up as far as calories and making a difference in your health. So I've talked to people many times that don't realize how unhealthy soda or juice throughout the day is. If that is something that's a regular part of your day, it will be the biggest difference in your health if you just cut down on the beverages that aren't water. Anything that's not water. I don't care if it's diet soda, light juice, I don't care what it is. If it's not water and it's a big part of what you're drinking throughout the day, make that your top priority to change. Start by cutting it down little by little. over weeks or months if that's what it takes for you to be comfortable with the change and reach your goal of having it only be mostly water and a little bit of something else throughout the day that's not water. We'll talk more about beverages later so that you can have some good options and you're not really bored with water. Okay, so healthy eating practices, some more of that. Eat slowly. Enjoy every bite. Be mindful of every bite. It's a big part of not overeating and knowing what you're eating. So some people tend to overeat if you eat really fast because it takes like 20 minutes almost for the volume of the food to really catch up to your brain and tell you, okay, that's enough, you're full. If you eat too fast, you'll probably miss that cue and you'll realize it too late when you're like overly full. Smaller portions are really important, but of nutrient or calorie dense foods. That means that for every little bite of food, there's lots of nutrients or lots of calories in it. So it's not just like eating nothing. So it means it has a purpose, basically. Every bite counts. It doesn't just fill up your stomach with volume, but nothing really of substance. You know what I mean? So that means, okay, goldfish. What is it serving? Like, how is that serving your body? What purpose does it have if you really think about it? It just kind of fills up your stomach, but it's not really meeting any specific nutrient need that your body has. So, in that sense, think make every bite count. And then it's really important for some people to stop and think before you eat something, am I actually hungry? Literally take a second, stop and think, okay, do I really feel hungry? If it's yes, okay, eat something. Or if it's no, maybe you're just really stressed out. Maybe you're really bored. Maybe you're just eating out of habit because it's noon and you think you should eat something. But maybe you ate something 2 hours ago, so you're fine. And you should wait a little bit longer till you actually feel hungry. It's really important to just be able to recognize those times that you're just kind of mindlessly eating without thinking about it for whatever reason. Vegging out in front of the TV and you're just, kind of relaxing after work or on the weekend. Some people it's habit and normal to just sit on the couch for a couple hours after work and eat something the entire time. So that's something to think about. Like I said, maybe it's always when you're stressed and you just kind of eat everything that you can get your hands on. It's really typical for a lot of people. Maybe it's when you're at work and there's a big candy bowl, or there's always free donuts on Mondays, or there's always like bagels available in the break room or something, and it's just there, so you just grab it because other people are doing that and it's available and it's free, and why not? So it's really going to make a big difference, like I said, if you can take some time right now, write down those times where you know that that's a problem, where you're just kind of mindlessly eating and you don't even realize, oh, I just ate that entire bag of chips, or I just ate basically a second breakfast at work because they were serving free bagels or free donuts or whatever. Really pinpoint those times so that you can make it a goal to avoid that in some way. So if it's the free food or candy or donuts at work, you have to try and find a way to avoid that or at least limit that. Keep your hands busy. If you're walking by something, keep something in your hands possibly, or just don't go by that break room so much, or the secretary's desk with the free bowl of candy. If it's vegging out in front of the TV and you just really feel like you need to munch on something, the least you could do is switch to something that's really low calorie, because you are simply doing it for the satisfaction of eating. So something like popcorn with no butter on it, or just really light butter, or a small serving with butter, that's very low calorie and it's filling and you feel kind of satisfied. And then you can still just keep on working on watching TV and not eating something all the time. If you're stressed out and that's when you're doing a lot of eating, try and experiment and find things that work for you that aren't eating. So maybe taking a really like brisk walk that keeps you busy and moving and can really help with stress. Calling a friend, doing a lot of housework. I'm sure there's always that to do, but something to keep your hands busy so that instead of picking up food and going to your mouth, they're doing something else that's useful and helps you de-stress. So whatever that is for you. Maybe it's something more relaxing like reading, but whatever that is for you, it's just the most important to be able to pinpoint those times where you're overeating. Okay, I hope that's helpful. And you guys, I hope you paused this so that you could write down those times and kind of talk about it with each other and give each other tips. All right, so moving on, we're going to talk about literally what does my plate look like every day at every meal. What are the options? What could I put on my plate that's healthy, that's affordable, and filling? Okay, so breakfast. I'm going to give you a couple options that aren't processed packaged foods, that are nutritious, and that you'll be really happy to hear, I promise. So, as you can see from this picture, 1 or 2 eggs fried in butter. You could have 1 to 2 slices of bacon, or you could even add some meat from last night's dinner. If you cooked something, you can do that instead of bacon. You can add like a half of an avocado or a slice of bread with butter. You also have the option of adding like a half a cup of orange juice. That's about this much. So if you're not used to only drinking this much orange juice and you're used to an entire glass, I encourage you really to get out your measuring cup and literally measure out half a cup, because anything over a half a cup is really just too much juice at one time. So this breakfast is really low carb. You only have carbs on this breakfast if you eat the slice of bread. There's a little bit of carbs in the avocado. The orange juice is completely carbs, so that's up to you if you're used to having juice with your breakfast. It's also fairly affordable. So I'm not sure what prices are in Maryland. Prices are much higher here in California, but I'm guessing for a dozen eggs could be like $2.50 or $3. You guys can talk about that among yourselves if I'm totally off, but that makes it like 20 to 25 cents per egg. So that part's really cheap. If you get bacon, it totally depends on what kind. We talked about earlier that obviously the higher quality processed meat, like if you're going to do bacon or hot dogs or sausage, it's best to get their higher quality with fewer bad ingredients so that you're not eating something unhealthy. But that's not always affordable. So depending on how much your bacon is, it could be like 70 cents per slice of bacon. It could be less, it could be more. But that's roughly like $1.50 if you're going to have two slices of bacon on your plate. Bread, that's like 30 cents a slice approximately. Again, it could be different. But so for this breakfast, we're looking at between $1.25 or $2.20, in between there somewhere. You could also even make your own breakfast sandwich. I mean, you have all the ingredients right there. You could trade out, you could do just 1 egg, 1 slice of bacon broken in half, and then an English muffin or half a slice of bread with like a slice of cheese, or even with the avocado spread on it. So yeah, you got your own breakfast sandwich there. It's so much more nutritious and cheaper than McDonald's ones. You're going to be full for a pretty long time. It should last you till lunch, at least till a mid-morning snack. Now, as we're going, you guys should pause this video after each meal that I talk about and discuss some other options that I'm not listing that would fit well with what we've talked about as far as being healthy and nutritious and the right portions. Okay, so moving on to lunch, there's a few options here. My favorite is leftovers from last night's dinner because it's super easy, it's affordable, and I just like that. And I already know it's healthy because my dinners that I cook at home are usually pretty healthy. So that's up to you. It also depends, if you're taking it to work, do you have a microwave available? Um, do you have a little lunch bag with an ice pack, or is there a fridge available? I mean, all that is a factor. Are you driving all day long and you can't stop to heat something up, or you can't eat like that? I mean, it's all dependent on what you're doing throughout the day. But last night's dinner leftovers are a great option. So other options for convenience, or if you're on the go, you need something that doesn't have to be warmed up, whatever the case, or if you just don't like leftovers. Some other good options that are affordable. Canned tuna. Don't get the kind that's packed in oil. Get the kind that's packed in water. Canned tuna is really a great source of protein and usually doesn't have anything added into it. Again, look at the ingredients, make sure, but even the really cheap kinds, I usually just see tuna in the ingredients. If you get the kind with salt, that's totally fine too. So add some mayonnaise. You can even do like half mayonnaise, half plain yogurt. Um, Add celery, whatever you like, to your tuna salad. You can make lettuce wraps out of it. That's lower carb, it's healthier. If you do that, you're gonna have to add something on the side though. So at the bottom of my slide here, I have a few things that you should and can put on the side of your lunches to make sure that it's big enough and fills you up. So if you just did like tuna and lettuce, you probably won't stay with you for that long because there's like no carbs and it's kind of low fat depending on the mayonnaise. With the mayonnaise, make sure you don't get reduced fat, low fat, anything. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the low fat products. Just get full fat everything, whatever you're going to buy. Okay. Another option, let's see. You could do half a sandwich with one of these options at the bottom. So one of the options at the bottom, I list fresh raw veggies, hummus, a handful of grapes or berries, or a half a piece of fruit, or olives. A can of olives is super cheap, very filling because it's very fatty, and it's very nutritious. Again, turn the can over, look at the ingredients, pick the one that looks the best because some add a lot of preservatives. If you're not a fan of olives, don't worry about it. I'm not, but my husband is. So, another option for lunch, a big salad. Make sure you just use oil and vinegar for your dressing. You could always make it more flavorful, your homemade dressing, if you added like a little bit of Dijon mustard and a tiny bit of honey. You can do more spices in it, like oregano, basil, garlic, whatever you want. But if your factor here is convenience, you can really just get away with olive oil and vinegar. You guys pause this and talk about this yourselves because I know a lot of you have really good ideas and options, but olive oil and either balsamic vinegar, apple cider vinegar, whatever you prefer, that's a really good option. There's really no good bottled salad dressing out there that's affordable at all. Like, not even, there's nothing. I mean, there's maybe a couple, but they're so expensive, so it's really not worth it. It's much more affordable to just use olive oil and vinegar as salad dressing. Okay, so if you do just a salad with oil and vinegar, you want to make sure you have a protein with it. So you can use some leftover meat from last night's dinner, or you can just boil a couple eggs and put that in it. So with any of these lunches, you want to make sure you have a little bit of something on the side, like I said. So grab one of these other options. One of my favorite options is to peel some cucumbers, slice it up, and put that in one of those snack bags and have that on the side. You can do the same with any vegetables, obviously. Berries are lower carb than regular fruit, so you can have a greater volume of berries than regular fruit. All right, so please, again, pause this, talk about some different lunch options that you guys can think of, and share those with each other. All right, so moving on, dinner. So the basic thing with dinner is, you want your 3 food groups: meat, and you're going to have a standard size for meat. See this deck of cards I have in my slide? That's what you should visualize when you're thinking of the portion of your meat. Basically, a deck of cards, give or take. You want a lot of vegetables on your plate. I'm not going to give you, I don't want you to limit your vegetables, basically. But I guess if you needed a measurement, aim for 1.5 to 2 cups of vegetables at your dinner, basically lunch and dinner. If you can have a vegetable at your breakfast, that would be awesome. But if you can't, that's fine because people usually aren't used to vegetables at breakfast unless it's like mixed in an omelet. If you can't, that's okay. But 1.5 to 2 cups of vegetables at lunch and dinner is great because the fiber will fill you up a lot and you're going to make sure you get all those vitamins in. So for your starchy food or your carb, aim for a size that's only a half a cup or the size of like a standard cupcake wrapper as you see on my slide. Again, you can always literally just get out your measuring cups and measure things for a little bit just so you get used to eyeballing it and not using a measuring cup and making sure that you have the right portions. Okay, so I'm just going to run down some typical dinners that I make that are just simple foods that don't have a lot of ingredients, therefore making them affordable. Okay, so one of my favorites is grilled chicken wings with a spice rub, so no barbecue sauce. And with no barbecue sauce, you're eliminating, again, a more expensive bottled product, something that usually has high fructose corn syrup in it and extra calories. I mean, if you just get like garlic and a couple dried herbs, salt and pepper, rub it all over the wings, and then grill them, they are so good. And make sure you eat them with the skin on. It's totally fine. Remember, we've talked about this. Fat is fine. It's more satisfying, so you'll have less cravings. And you can always look up recipes for this. So you could do that with a salad. Again, only oil and vinegar. There's no bottled dressing that's really healthy at all and affordable. You can add some berries or fruit to your salad. And if you don't want to add fruit to your salad, you can add a small carb on the side. Another dinner option that I like, pot roast or like a slow cooked piece of pork, like a big pork butt. That's fairly affordable. It's like one of the cheapest cuts of pork. Always, again, look up recipes for this stuff. I like to do steamed broccoli and add lots of butter to it. And then the small piece of baked potato with butter, or you can like slice them up and roast them, whatever you want to do with your potatoes. But if you're used to having a whole big potato on your plate, that is more than a half a cup. So you got to cut that in half or figure out what is a half a cup, make it look like it would fit in a cupcake wrapper. Another idea, roasted chicken, slow cooked chicken, whatever you want to do with your chicken. Doesn't matter if it's white meat, dark meat, doesn't matter. Skin on, whatever you like. Sauteed greens and butter. And then polenta, I really love. A lot of people haven't even heard of it, but it's just like really coarse corn grits. So, and they're less refined, so they're yellow, still like corn. And then I make it with milk and butter, so that when I only get my half a cup, it's really satisfying and filling because it has milk and butter in it. You should do the same if you're making rice. Add butter to your rice so that you can have less of it and still feel very satisfied. Another one of my options that I like is sausage, like fresh sausage from the deli counter at the grocery store. And then I like to experiment with different foods. So I love plantains. All I do is cut them up and put them in the oven. I actually don't use oil on these because I don't like to use oil in the oven because it really damages it with a high heat. What I do is I save my bacon fat from my bacon and I rub that on it with a pastry brush, one of those like silicone brushes. You could use butter too if you wanted, or even coconut oil. If you used vegetable oil because the only thing you can get to, that's fine. Just make sure it's not something you use regularly. As you see here on all these plates, there's a lot of green. There's green on every plate. And you want to try and make that the biggest part, the biggest type of food, the biggest portion for the type of food on your plate. There should be more vegetables than there is meat. There should be more vegetables than there is of a starchy food. Okay. Again, please pause this and talk about different options you guys can think of or brainstorm how you can improve your own dinners that you make right now. Okay, so for healthy snacks, we've kind of touched on this before, but I just want to run through it again. Some healthy snack options, 1 or 2 a day. Um, my favorite is cheese and grapes. You want to make sure though that you use the little snack baggies that they have at the grocery store if you have any issues with figuring out what good portion sizes are. Cheese is high calorie, so you don't want to have too much of it. So put it in those, get a block of cheese. That's always more affordable than pre-sliced, pre-cut, whatever. And then just chop it up yourself into either sticks or cubes, whatever you like. Put it in those little baggies and you're good to go. You can always do apple or celery with peanut butter. Hard-boiled egg is a great snack. Cheese stick, fresh raw veggies cut up, half a piece of fruit paired with cheese or peanut butter. So I always say if you're gonna have fruit as a snack, cut it in half, eat half of it, and pair it with something else that is not a carb. Usually the only things that go with fruit, depending on the fruit, is cheese or peanut butter, but feel free to try something else if that's what you like. But yeah, so if you're gonna have an apple, cut it in half and have it with some peanut butter. If you're gonna have grapes, eat less of the grapes than you normally would, like half a cup, like a small handful, and then pair it with a little bit of cheese. That helps you with controlling your blood sugar, and therefore it helps with controlling your weight. A lot of people I know have issues with blood sugar, maybe pre-diabetes or diabetes, so this is a really good tip for you guys, but this is what I do too. So just having a whole piece of fruit at once really spikes your blood sugar and is not something great to do on a frequent basis. Um, okay, next, you can always do plain or lightly sweetened yogurt. If you did plain yogurt, like I mentioned before, you can always add fresh fruit or like a little bit of maple syrup or honey to sweeten it. That way you're in control of how much sugar goes in. And as far as like a processed or packaged convenient snack item, my favorite are the Larabars that we talked about before in the last class. Okay, so for moving on. Dessert. I mean, there's only a couple options here that I can recommend. So dark chocolate is always better than any other type of chocolate, right? It has less sugar and it also has the boost of antioxidants. The darker, the better. There's not really much benefit to dark chocolate unless it's dark, like at least 70% dark. Some people just don't like that taste of the bitter chocolate, but that's up to you guys. Homemade dessert is always better because that means you have less additives, less chemicals, less artificial ingredients because you're using real food ingredients and making something homemade. So there's that benefit. Of course, it's still carbs and sugar, so it doesn't mean that it's healthy. It just means it's less unhealthy. um, Basically, though, for dessert, there's nothing really I can point out that's an actual healthy dessert. I mean, all dessert, like I just said, is all carbs and sugar, and that's kind of the point of it, right? So you just really need to make sure that you're watching the portion, you're not going overboard, and that the rest of your day is compensating for that. So I really love dessert, but therefore I make sure I'm planning my day to really be on point with my nutrition so that I can nutritionally afford to have a dessert at the end of the day or whenever. So I try and plan when I can. If I can't and something just came up and I'm like, oh, we're going out with friends and we're getting ice cream, I didn't even know that until the last minute, and I ate like crap all day long, great. So my day looks like crap. The next day and the next day after that, I'm really going to compensate for that and make sure I'm really on point. So that's totally fine if you do that. Again, we've talked about this 80-20 rule, and just make sure you balance things out. If you can plan for it, that's great. If not, make up for it later and really try and stay on point. Again, portion control is key. This picture I have here is what half a cup of ice cream looks like, and that's really what you should aim for. For a lot of people, it's very unrealistic, but it is doable, depending on the rest of your day and what you're used to. So at first, it might not be doable at all. And you're just like, right, a half a cup of ice cream, that's a joke. I'm going to go back to the freezer and get more. Okay, that's fine. Just continue working on it and decrease it a little at a time. So if you need to take 2 months to get down to that goal of a half a cup of ice cream, that's fine. Do it. As long as you have a goal and you keep fighting for it. If you can't get to your goal in a week and then you just give up, that's not really helpful. So make sure your goal and length of time to get to your goal is realistic. It's also more doable to do this half a cup of ice cream if the rest of your day you had really satisfying meals. So meals that had butter in them and other sources of fat. Meals that had lots of fiber from lots of veggies. So if you're starving yourself all day just so you can have a huge bowl of ice cream at night, that's not a balanced, nutritious way to live that day. That's not how you should balance the meals or your day of eating. It doesn't mean starve yourself all day so you can splurge at night. It doesn't work well that way. You have to make sure the rest of your day looks great so that you can splurge a little at night. And when you splurge, don't go overboard. Just try and have a boundary and think of that boundary ahead of time before you get to the freezer or the pantry to get those cookies out. Try and have a boundary already in mind with a goal. All right. So lastly, we're going to talk about beverages like I promised. So water, again, very important, big thing. It helps cut down on calories if most of your beverages throughout the day are just water. If water really bores you, you can dress it up with lemon, fresh fruit, mint, cucumber, whatever you like. Try adding that to your water to add a little bit of flavor. See if you like it. I love it. Some people really hate it, so that's fine. Just try it. Try new things. You won't know if you like it until you do. Another really great option is adding plain seltzer water to some juice. So if people here are really big on soda, this is a great thing to help you transition off of soda. It's really carbonated, just like soda, and it's sweet, just like soda. So the thing is with this, the key is slowly transitioning with the portions of juice. So at first, you might want to start like with this much juice and this much seltzer water. Over period of time, however much it takes you to adjust, you can eventually switch to this much juice, this much seltzer water. But for some people, that might take like 3 months to get used to that taste of something less sweet. Other people could do it in 2 weeks. It's totally dependent on the person, and it doesn't matter how long it takes, just as long as you're slowly making that change of less juice, more seltzer. Tea and coffee, I know this is going to be a question, but tea and coffee are totally fine. You just obviously want to pay attention to what you're putting into it. If you're putting tons of sugar, even if it's non-calorie sweeteners like Splenda or Sweet and Low, it's still not good. So I don't care if it's regular sugar or artificial sugar, you still have to watch that and keep that in mind. Like, that is something that counts. It's not just because it's a beverage, oh, it doesn't matter, it's no calories. It is, it totally matters. But tea and coffee in general are fine. You just watch what you put into it. All right, so we're gonna talk lastly about some ways to help you stick to your budget, and then we're gonna talk about some recipes real quick. Okay, so options for sticking to your budget. We've mentioned this before. Try the farmers markets near you. Look up online where they are. There might be even new ones that you didn't know existed, maybe in places you didn't even know. And visit them, ask around, ask if people take WIC and SNAP, because a lot of them do. All right, a big thing about sticking to your budget, try and maybe even find our old the most recent receipt. If you save your receipts, look at it and try it and see if you can find anything you bought that really didn't serve any nutritional purpose and you just bought it because it tastes good and you're used to buying it. If you don't have a receipt, just do your normal shopping trip and, like, before you check out, look in your cart and try and think of is there anything here I really don't need because it doesn't serve a nutrition purpose? For instance, like I mentioned before, goldfish really doesn't have a nutrition purpose. It just kind of fills your stomach up, or your kid's stomach up. Um, but something that would be better are one of those snacks we talked about earlier. I mean, a cucumber is super cheap. You peel that, you chop it up. It's super cheap, and then you could even pair it with like a couple little cubes of cheese. I mean, or a cheese stick. Very affordable, and it serves a purpose. Hawaiian Punch or High C or any of those typical drinks. They don't serve any nutritional purpose. And the money used for that could be spent on something else that you value more and has more nutrition purpose. Same with soda or any beverage like that. I'm trying to think. You guys talk and brainstorm and throw some ideas out there of what you think you could do without or do with less often, and then trade for something maybe you thought you couldn't afford, but now that you cut out those extra things that you don't really need, you can afford this other thing that you thought you couldn't. Like, for instance, avocados. They're a little bit more expensive. Or, let's see, even like the higher quality, if you decide to do bacon, if you could have probably better afford the higher quality bacon if you can find a couple things that you buy all the time that don't serve any nutrition purpose. All right, another thing to try is reverse meal planning. So meal planning typically means like you sit down and you figure out, okay, these are all the meals I'm going to make all week, and then you go and buy those foods. Okay, reverse meal planning is first you go and buy those foods, and then you pick recipes that include those foods. And the trick about this is when you're buying those foods, you buy stuff that's affordable. So you buy the stuff that's on sale and that's healthy, and stick to your budget. And then when you get home, get online, open some cookbooks, and find recipes that include those foods. So that's what I do. I just find it's easier to stick to my budget when I do that, because if I pick out a recipe and then I go to the store and I'm like, okay, well, that meat is not on sale and this other meat is, but I planned my recipe for this, what am I going to do? That doesn't really work for me. So instead, I just buy the meat that's on sale, and then I find a recipe that I can use to cook with it. Okay, so cooking more than eating out or buying packaged food is most always cheaper. It's definitely cheaper to cook than it is to eat out, but it's usually cheaper to cook something fresh than it is to open a bunch of packages and have dinner on the table like that. Of course, the two things here are, do you know how to cook, and do you have time to cook? Knowing how to cook is the easier thing to fix. You have each other as a resource, and you have the internet, right? So the next slide, I'll give you some websites to go to learn some new recipes, but use each other as a resource. I mean, I know a lot of you are really good cooks, and you guys could help each other out. And you can always turn on the cooking channel anytime. It's very entertaining and gives you lots of great ideas, and you just get used to eventually just seeing how people do things, and then you feel more comfortable doing it yourself in the kitchen after a while. Bulk cooking is one idea that some people really like. Like, for instance, this helps with time more than budget, I suppose. But some people like to do all their cooking for the whole week, one day a week, and then split it up into like freezer bags and freeze it, and then all you have to do is take it out for your meal and put it in like a slow cooker or the oven, whatever. That's one thing. Also, slow cooker meals in general really help with time. So sometimes I'll just put like a whole chicken in the crock pot in the morning, which I usually get ready at the night before. Like, I put all the spices on it and whatnot, put it in the slow cooker, I leave for work, I come home, it's done. So there's lots of options, recipes for that online. Lastly, if you just remember to keep your meals simple, you really don't have to make anything extravagant. That really tends to help with the affordability of the meal. So I know there's a lot of recipes I just won't ever try because, they call for expensive ingredients or a long list of ingredients. So the simpler the meal is, the less ingredients, it's going to be more affordable. So if you really don't have to get fancy like that, just keep it simple. I mean, the meals I showed you on the dinner slide are fairly simple, very few ingredients. I usually just dress up my meals with spices, herbs, a lot of garlic, and onions. So whatever you guys prefer as far as taste, that really just helps. If you can get comfortable with having like a few staple dry herbs in your cabinet and using garlic and onion, stuff like that, that really helps and keeps the costs way down because those things are very affordable. And lastly, try new recipes. It's you feel very limited if you don't know what to cook. So everything basically is at your fingertips. Just Google it. There's a lot of great websites out there that have really simple recipes. Of course, there's going to be ones that are super complex. Just ignore those unless you want to get fancy and creative. But you really just can look for super simple recipes that are healthy. And actually, one of the best things to do is to search blogs because a lot of people include great pictures, and it's just like regular people cooking instead of real chefs. So the recipes tend to be simpler. So here's a great little list of some websites and blogs that I like. Actually, all of these are blogs. None of these are like professional chefs. So that's a really good idea for easy to do recipes. Also, please take some time after this to swap recipes with each other or at another time. Your group here is one of your best resources, so I encourage you to keep discussing this at the end. All right? I think we've covered everything. Again, please write down a list of any questions you guys had during this and email it to me, and I'll be sure to answer. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.